faithfully delivering value by interpreting the world's best books. Hello, this is Sally Talks Books. Today I'll be interpreting the book Decisiveness for you. Its subtitle clearly summarizes the book's theme: how to make better choices in life and work. More and more people now believe that picking the right direction matters more than hard work. But getting choices right isn't easy. We often end up regretting the wrong ones. Some folks choose the wrong major, study for 4 years, only to find no interest and land unemployed after graduation. Others pick the wrong job, burning out from endless overtime while handling office politics with colleagues. Then there are those who choose the wrong life partner, marrying only to clash over values and bicker daily about trivial stuff. So, what exactly stops us from making good choices? And how can we improve our decision making? The book Decisiveness tackles both these questions head on. The authors, Chip Heath and Dan Heath, are brothers. One's a Stanford Business School professor, the other a senior researcher at Duke University. This elite duo has published best-selling psychology books like Made to Stick, each acclaimed and popular. Decisiveness is a standout, translated into 17 languages and praised globally. The authors break down the choice process into 4 stages: facing options, analyzing them, making a choice, and accepting the outcome. Take job hunting. We start by listing companies we're interested in. That's the facing options stage. Next, we compare company conditions and pick top choices for interviews. That's the analyzing stage. If interviews go well and offers roll in, we must choose one company. That's the making a choice stage. But reaching this point doesn't mean it's over. We need to brace for potential mistakes. If something feels off after joining the company, we adjust quickly. That's the accepting outcome stage. Each of these 4 stages has a roadblock that can derail good choices. The book offers rich solutions to these hurdles, crafting an efficient 4-step method to help us choose better. Next, I'll explain this 4-step decision method by addressing obstacles at each stage. The 4 steps are: first, broaden your options to overcome narrow framing. Second, reality test your assumptions to overcome confirmation bias. Third, create emotional distance before deciding to overcome short-term emotions. Fourth, prepare for mistakes to overcome overconfidence. All right, let's start with step 1. Broadening options to overcome narrow framing. In the initial choice facing stage, narrow framing is the common obstacle. Narrow framing means we restrict choices from the very beginning. We confine them to such a small range that we miss the right options entirely. Say a woman constantly argues with her boyfriend. She might think her only choices are either tolerating it to avoid fights or breaking up to find someone more patient. Actually, neither is ideal. A better option is calmly discussing the root cause, their communication issues. Or if they view things differently, they could try mutual adjustments or seek couples counseling for professional advice. But the problem is, if they never even consider these approaches, how could they possibly choose them? So, step 1 to better choices is expanding your options to see more possibilities, defeating narrow framing. How do we overcome narrow framing then? The authors suggest 3 methods. First, try the vanishing options test. Ask, if my current options disappeared, what else could I do? This powerfully reminds us options extend beyond the obvious. Suppose you really want a game console but find it expensive. You might only see buy or don't buy, but apply the vanishing options test. Suddenly more choices appear. Hunt for cheaper used ones online or borrow from a friend. See how options multiply, defeating narrow thinking? The second method is multi-tracking. Consider multiple options without locking onto one path prematurely. The book cites Lexicon as an example. This company specializes in naming products for businesses, including the BlackBerry phone. When naming this phone, Lexicon used multi-tracking by having multiple teams brainstorm different creative directions. They even assigned one team no client details, just a general direction to freely imagine names. This method ultimately yielded the iconic name BlackBerry. So, though seemingly unrelated to business phones, BlackBerry resembled the key shapes while projecting vibrancy that offset typical corporate dullness. So, when gathering options, keep an open mind without limiting yourself up front. This often reveals unexpected solutions. The final method to overcome narrow framing is climbing the ladder. Climbing the ladder means looking to others when we can't find solutions ourselves. Suppose you're a supermarket manager needing to shorten checkout lines. Where to start? The authors suggest climbing step by step from internal to external sources. First, check if any checkout counter in your store is faster than others. If yes, replicate that counter's methods. If not, climb to other supermarkets in your city for solutions. Still nothing? Climb further to national or international peers. You'll usually find several solutions by then. Want more options? Climb one more level. But now look beyond supermarket peers. Study all Q-heavy industries like stadiums or theme parks for process solutions. Each climb widens your perspective, increases reference points, and multiplies solutions. All right, let's summarize part one. In the choice-facing stage, narrow framing is the obstacle. It blinds us to the best options. There are 3 methods to overcome narrow framing. First, use the vanishing options test to remind yourself of more possibilities. Second, multi-tracking provides more information and inspiration. Third, climbing the ladder helps find solutions from others. Now let's move to step 2 of the 4-step decision method. Step 2, reality test your assumptions to overcome confirmation bias. In the option analysis stage, the obstacle is confirmation bias. Confirmation bias means when comparing options, we may wear tinted glasses, only seeing information that confirms our prejudices. It's like stock trading. Whenever a bull market hits, newbies flood in. They only see those making huge profits, not those losing money. This leads to the absurd conclusion that stocks always pay off, often ending in devastating losses. So, to overcome confirmation bias, we must reality test assumptions and avoid subjective guesses. The authors offer 3 specific methods to achieve this. First, consider the opposite. Have the courage to seek differing opinions. GM CEO Sloan once asked in a meeting, "We've reached consensus on this issue, right?" After everyone nodded, Sloan surprisingly said, "I propose postponing this discussion to allow time for differing views and better informed decisions." Sloan knew large companies easily breed groupthink, so proactively seeking dissent prevents future errors. Does some organizations appoint a devil's advocate to voice objections and spark thorough discussions for balanced evaluations? The second method combines 2 perspectives: the outside view using objective statistics, and the close-up view. An outside view means objective stats, not subjective judgments. Better reflect reality. For example, Xiao Wang wants to open a Sichuan restaurant downtown. He sees many advantages: high foot traffic, no competitors nearby, and his own culinary skills. But if data shows 60% of nearby restaurants closed within 2 years, then even confident Shawan must reconsider. Yet the outside view alone isn't enough. Combine it with close-up details for balanced decisions. Let's continue with the restaurant example for decision-making. Statistics reveal high failure risks here, demanding careful consideration. But Xia Wang should also investigate why restaurants fail here and what successful ones do differently. He could study common traits among failed restaurants to inform his choice. Maybe he'll discover locals love spicy food and failed places served bland cuisine. Then he could confidently open Sichuan cuisine's heat matches local tastes. Or he might find locals prefer trendy Japanese or Western food. Then even Sichuan expertise shouldn't open here. The final method to beat confirmation bias is simple. Test in reality. No prediction beats hands-on experience. it's how entrepreneurs think. A survey found 60% of Fortune 500 CEOs started without business plans. One entrepreneur said, I don't trust market research, I sell directly. This launch fast, iterate quickly approach dominates tech. Don't wait for perfection. Prototype a workable idea immediately and launch it. Check if user feedback matches predictions, then refine accordingly. This applies beyond business. When possible, experience things firsthand. If I'm sure about grad school majors, audit different courses to find your fit. When hiring designers with weak communication but stellar work, test them for a month. No need to overthink. All right, let's summarize. Part two is obstacle during option analysis is confirmation bias. It prevents us from analyzing things objectively. There are three methods to overcome confirmation bias. Considering opposite situations to see different perspectives, combining the outside view with close-up to avoid subjective judgments, and testing our views through actual trials. Next, let's talk about step 3 of the 4-step decision method, creating distance when making decisions to overcome short-term emotions. In the third stage of making choices, the obstacle is short-term emotions. Even after objectively analyzing pros and cons, we might be influenced by emotions like anger, greed, or fear to make impulsive choices. This situation isn't rare in life. For example, some husbands frequently abuse their wives, then beg for forgiveness after each incident, and people around urge the wife to end it, but she stays emotionally attached, unable to divorce, hurting herself repeatedly. Others really want a new job and know it offers better prospects, but fear risks and can't decide to switch. Therefore, step 3 to making good choices is not immersing in current emotions and keeping distance from the choice to overcome short-term emotions. Here we mainly discuss two methods. The first is asking yourself before deciding, how will I view this choice 10 minutes later? Your research subjects should be all industries with checkout queues like stadiums and amusement parks to find solutions from their processes. So, use each step up, broadens your perspective, increases references, and multiplies solutions naturally. All right, let's summarize part 1. In the choice-facing stage, the obstacle is narrow framing, which blinds people to the best options. There are 3 methods to overcome narrow framing. First, use the vanishing options test to remind yourself of more choices. Second, multi-tracking provides more information and inspiration. Third, climbing the ladder helps find methods from others. Next, let's discuss the 4-step decision methods. Step 2, reality test your assumptions to overcome confirmation bias. In the second option analysis stage, people encounter the obstacle of confirmation bias. Confirmation bias means when comparing options, we may be influenced by prejudice, viewing choices through tinted glasses, only seeing information that confirms our biases. It's like stock trading. Whenever a bull market hits, waves of novices rush into the market. They only see those making huge profits, never those losing money. This leads to the absurd conclusion that stocks always pay off, often ending in catastrophic losses like lambs to slaughter. So, to overcome confirmation bias, we must reality test assumptions and avoid subjective guesses. The authors provide 3 specific methods to achieve this. First, consider the opposite. Have the courage to seek differing opinions. GM CEO Sloan once asked in a meeting, "We've reached consensus on this issue, right?" After everyone nodded, Sloan surprisingly said, "I propose postponing this discussion to allow time for differing views and better informed decisions." Sloan knew large companies easily foster groupthink. Proactively seeking dissent prevents future errors. Thus, some organizations appoint a devil's advocate to voice objections, spark discussions, and ensure balanced evaluations. The second method combines 2 perspectives, the outside view and the close-up view. The outside view means objective statistics, not subjective judgments, offer more reliable references, and accurately reflect reality. For example, Xiaowang wants to open a Sichuan restaurant downtown. He sees advantages: high foot traffic, no competitors, and his culinary skills. But if data shows 60% of nearby restaurants closed within 2 years, even confident Xiaowang must reconsider. Yet the outside view alone isn't enough, best combined with close-up details. After comprehensive consideration, let's continue with the restaurant example for decision-making. Statistics reveal high risks in this area, demanding careful decisions. That Xiaolong should also look into why restaurants in this area tend to close and what makes the surviving ones different. So he could also study what closed restaurants have in common to help his decision. Perhaps Xiaowang will discover that people in this area love spicy food, and closed restaurants were unpopular because of bland flavors. Then he can confidently open his restaurant, since Sichuan cuisine is known for its spicy and numbing flavors. Or he might find that people here chase trends preferring Japanese or Western cuisine, and closed restaurants were Chinese ones. Then, even with his Sichuan expertise, he shouldn't open here. The final method to overcome confirmation bias is very simple. Test it in reality. All predictions and ideas are less convincing than actual experience. That's how many entrepreneurs think. A survey found that 60% of 500 Fortune CEOs didn't write business plans when starting their companies. An entrepreneur once said, "I don't trust market research. I choose to sell the product directly." This launch fast, iterate quickly approach is common in tech. Don't wait for everything to be perfect. Instead of a perfect product, immediately create a simple prototype with a workable idea and launch it into the market. See if user feedback matches predictions, then refine based on feedback. This applies to other fields too. When possible, experience it firsthand. If you're unsure about grad school majors, audit different courses to find your fit. When hiring designers, if someone has weak communication but stellar work, test them for a month. No need to overthink. All right, let's summarize. Part two is obstacle during option analysis is confirmation bias. It prevents us from analyzing things objectively. There are 3 methods to overcome confirmation bias: considering opposite situations to see different perspectives, combining the outside view with close-up to avoid subjective judgments, and testing our views through actual trials. Next, let's discuss step 3 of the 4-step decision method: creating distance when deciding to overcome short-term emotions. In the third stage of making choices, the obstacle is short-term emotions. Even after objectively analyzing pros and cons, we might be swayed by emotions like anger, greed, or fear to make impulsive choices. This situation isn't rare in life. For example, some husbands frequently abuse their wives, then beg for forgiveness each time. People urge the wife to leave, but she stays emotionally attached, unable to divorce, hurting herself repeatedly. Others really want a new job and know it offers better prospects, but fear risks and can't decide to switch. So step 3 to good choices is not immersing in current emotions and keeping distance to overcome short-term emotions. Here, we mainly discuss 2 methods. First, ask yourself before deciding, how will I view this choice 10 minutes later? Then 10 months later? 10 years later? The book shares Anne's story as an example. For instance, Anne and Carl dated 9 months. She thought Carl was her ideal partner, but worried about their future. The band's method was adding a contract clause requiring backstage chocolates but not brown ones, sounding unreasonable yet clever upon reflection. If no chocolates or brown ones appear backstage, it means the partner skimped on reading the contract, hinting their equipment may not meet requirements. Here, the brown chocolate serves as an alarm. This method applies to many life situations. The simplest alarm is setting a boundary. Once hit, reconsider your actions. If you want to diet for weight loss, don't overtrust your willpower. thinking you'll stop after the set portion. A better way is switching to a small bowl that holds the set amount. This small bowl acts as an alarm. Each time you finish a bowl, you realize you've eaten enough. Even if craving more, you pause to recall your weight loss goal, controlling impulses, and defeating overconfidence. The last method is trusting the process. When people are overconfident, they tend to overlook potential risks. The value of processes lies in their clear steps that help us systematically eliminate risks. That's why airlines provide detailed pre flight checklists for pilots to follow before takeoff. So each item requires a signature after inspection to minimize accidents. Process. Beyond preventing overconfidence, processes also make us more decisive and willing to take risks because we know our judgment isn't impulsive but process tested. Built on comprehensive analysis, this gives us security to confidently pursue goals. The four-step decision method we've discussed is exactly such a process. All right, let's summarize part 4. In the outcome accepting stage, overconfidence is the obstacle. It prevents handling surprises. 3 methods. Consider extreme outcomes to define a future range. Set alarms to prompt behavior rechecks. And finally, trust the process. With that, we've nearly covered decisiveness. Let's revisit the book's core. Choice making involves 4 stages: facing options, analyzing them, deciding, and accepting outcomes. The 4-step method overcomes each stage's obstacles to help make optimal choices. Step 1. Broaden options to defeat narrow framing, using vanishing options, multi-tracking, and ladder climbing. Step 2. Reality test assumptions to overcome confirmation bias by considering opposites, combining outside close-up views, and real-world testing. Step 3. Create decision distance to overcome short-term emotions using future perspective questioning and imagined friend advice scenarios. Step 4. Prepare for errors to defeat overconfidence through premortems, alarms, and process trust. All right, decisiveness. That concludes our interpretation. Reading notes are below the audio. See you tomorrow.